And we're live. Hello all, and welcome to the Sigil Spotlight. My name, as always, is Mr. Harlan Guthrie, and I'm here once again with the wonderful, the talented Aaron Abolt. How are you doing, Ellen?
Good. How are you?
Good. It's the holiday season. And Santa Claus is coming to town. Are you getting in the holiday spirit?
Oh yeah. No, we've had trees up, shopping, the whole shebang. I'm supposed
Do you
to
do real tree or fake tree? What's your
fake
tree? Fake tree. I always used to do fake tree. It's much easier. But
yeah, they're so messy.
Real tree. I know. And I've had bad luck because I would say we've done real trees now 3 years. The first year, this thing was prickly, like so painfully prickly. Like you couldn't put anything on without hurting yourself. I ended up having to use leather gloves just to decorate half the thing because it was so painful, legitimately.
Yeah.
And then last year, for whatever reason, the tree just like shed like a dog.
Oh
like, don't get me wrong, they drop needles, but this thing was like constantly. And then and then it died way too early. So but this year I think we're at the sweet spot because we didn't get a tree as big. It's soft and it hasn't been overly shedding yet.
That's
so
good.
I think, yeah, I'm very happy about it, and the audience is as well. Thank you.
Yeah, we have very tall ceilings, and then we actually have a couple of other trees because various relatives were like, I want a new tree. And so they just kind of keep gifting us trees. And so we kind of decide which ones are we putting up this year.
Wait, so you have different fake trees?
We have multiple trees, yeah.
And you put them all up?
This year we do because the house is actually big enough that we can like split them up. But
that's kind of cool.
Previous years,
never split the party, but if you have to do it with trees, I suppose. Do you share decorations? Do you do popcorn between the trees?
That would be fantastic.
You ever done that? You ever done popcorn strings?
I have not. We did ribbon this year, but not popcorn.
Ooh. Like nice little tied bows in it, or like
no, like here's a whole round of ribbon. We're just going to kind of swirl around the tree. So that we don't need as many ornaments.
I like it. I like it. And is underneath already stuffed with presents, or are you kind of like
not yet? It's getting there.
Yeah, it's like one or two things that people have dropped off, maybe, or that you have to give to somebody else.
The drop off is coming this weekend, actually, and then I think it'll start looking pretty full.
Nice. Yeah, I feel like most of the time it's like that, right? It's like nothing. Week of Christmas, bam.
Yeah.
The Christmas or the holidays or whatever. Actually, fun fact: my 4-year-old son picked we all picked little ornaments from the store, and he picked because his favorite color is blue. He picked the only blue thing in the store, which was a beautiful blue menorah, and so he put that on the tree, which is great.
You go. Yeah,
he didn't understand. He just called it a blue candle. And I was like, sure, man.
My family actually. So like my side of the family actually does Yule. So that they don't so that we can meet up before all of the big driving hustle. So
cool. That's smart. Good way to fly too. But anyway, it is the holiday season and we are excited. This is actually, I guess, our last stream before the New Year. Well, before New Year's, you're right, before New Year's Eve stream.
Yeah.
But this is sort of like the holiday stream.
Yeah.
So we'll be extra jolly. And our guest will be extra jolly today. But before we bring him on, is there any news, Ellen? And I know the answer to this, but
the answer to this is...
Hold on, I got a good... There.
Next episode.
No, I mean, like you said, there's a bit, there's stuff that we're working on.
Yeah, but it's not announceable. There will be... there's some VTT stuff that I know is very close to being announceable.
Yes.
And there has been, so S5E has started to have some more stuff going out to backers. So if you backed the S5E Kickstarter, then as always, check your email, check your backer kit account. Make sure that you are getting, let me get the name for it exactly because I forgot.
Check it out, as they say, as the Beastie Boys would say. Check it out.
The Titan Effect Jump Starter.
Oh, that's right.
Yes, that is now available. So make sure that you get that and get out your Titan Effect Christmas games going.
Yeah, which we're going to talk to, I think, our guest about Christmas games after, obviously, we get through the why they're here of it all. But before we get to that, I do want to mention something that's sort of tangentially related to Sigil. We often find ourselves working with the fine folks at Sound Booth Theater, soundbooththeater.com. They are a group of audiobook narrators, and they will be working in cooperation with our S5E Kickstarter that successfully, was a few months ago now, they're going to be narrating some short stories by a myriad of authors that we've worked with, Kevin Andrew Murphy, as well as I think John Wick has done one. But Sound Booth Theater has also, I believe this Thursday, will be releasing 2 Christmas episodes as well. So if you are sort of feeling the holiday spirit and you are looking for something to satiate your ear holes.
Yeah, you said that out loud.
Oh, come on. You know what I mean. You go check them out, soundbooththeater.com. They have 2 awesome projects. One that both I worked on. One I helped with much more. I co-wrote it and directed it, and it's a project called Naughty or Nice. It's a 15-minute audio experience where you put on your headphones, you close your eyes, and you're transported away. But the other one, which is more related, is written by our good friend Shane Hensley, who is, of course, owner-operator of PEG. And he wrote a story last Christmas called Kringled Down. And Sound Booth Theater had recorded it, and I did all the sound effects and stuff like that. And it was a really fun Die Hard-esque Christmas special that you can check out on their website. Well, we are now releasing Kringled Down 2, which is the sequel that Shane wrote as well. Again, it's got really great audio effects. So if you are somebody who enjoys PEG or RPG sort of lit stories, or just a good time, make sure you check out soundbooththeater.com, check that out, download it, and enjoy for the holiday season. So there you go. That's kind of related. I know it's not direct Sigil news, but I know everyone at Sigil loves Shane. So
yeah, no, Shane's good people.
Cool. But that is it for news. So without further ado, I think we should bring on our guest for today. Please welcome to stage Mr. Talon Dunning. Listen to that.
Hey.
Oh, coming out everywhere. How are you doing, Talon?
I'm doing okay.
Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for being on the show.
Of course. Thanks for having me.
Our pleasure. Could you please, for the lovely people at home who are curious as to exactly the influence that you have across Sigil and various projects, can you let us know a little bit about who you are and what you do?
Sure. I am an illustrator and a fantasy artist. I've been in this business for longer than I really care to admit, since about 1996, 97, somewhere in there. I got my start with West End Games, doing art for the Star Wars role-playing game, the original D6.
Awesome.
Right before they went out of business. So that was a nice introduction to the industry.
Welcome. Please leave.
Yeah. Welcome. Here's a bunch of not money you'll get, but it was a good foot in the door, and I've been kind of going. I wouldn't call it strong, but going pretty well ever since. It's fun, at least.
And what are some of the projects that you've worked with Sigil on? Obviously, there are some that particularly you stand out on. I guess what are some of the ones that stand out to you? Sigil has got me work for various companies. The one that excited me the most was getting to work for Torg, which is my favorite role playing game of all time. And when Ulysses Spiele, I think, contracted Sigil out to put do the art direction and stuff for Torg, I jumped on that. I was like, oh heck yeah, I want in on that. So Torg is your MVP RPG, as it were. That's very interesting. We've had a lot of people on the show, and you are by far the first to mention Torg is their favorite. But frankly, you're the only to mention Torg at all.
I got into Torg in early college. A friend of mine who became my college roommate for a while said, hey, I've got these 2 new games, Rifts and Torg, which were both like brand new at the time and both very similar in theme. They were like, which one do you want to do? And he kind of pitched them, and I said, Torg sounds like fun, and it became our game. That was our jam all through college. Absolutely love it. I mean, I loved a game where you could literally play anything. I played Ascension Pile of Mud once. It worked. It was
amazing.
Great. Yeah, it was so
awesome. That, like Indiana Jones vibe where it's sort of like fast and loose and adventure heavy.
Oh yeah. So when they brought it back, I was like, I've got to get in on this on the ground floor, and I dig that work a lot. I think the other thing I did for you all that I really liked was I think I did something for Vampire. That was for you guys, right? We did a Vampire book.
That would be, I don't know, but I know you have worked on Vampire as well.
Yeah, well, I interned with White Wolf back
your
when they were
early
here.
years, right?
What's that?
Yeah, back in your early years.
Oh yeah, when I was just getting started. It was like 99 to 2000, and they were here in Atlanta in Stone Mountain, and they put out a notice saying, they were looking for art directors. So or not art directors, but somebody graphic designers basically.
Yeah.
Somebody for the production department. So I said, well, I have no experience. I'm a shoe-in. But they liked that I was local at least, so they had me in, and they liked my work. But they were like, yeah, you need some experience. How about a year's internship? And I was like, is it pay? And they were like, nope. And I was like, I'll do it. But I learned a lot. I really learned a lot with them. I owe those guys a lot, and I really love my time there. So.
I think it was the Eternal Struggle you worked for, right? Or worked on Vampire.
Yeah, I did some art for Eternal Struggle. Yeah, that's right. It was kind of when my internship ended, and they were. I was like, well, I guess I'm kind of done. And they were like, hey, you do art, right? And I'm like, yeah. They were like, let's give you some art. I became known for my work on Ravenloft. They did a version of Ravenloft in early 2000s, and I became their go-to guy for Ravenloft. That's what I'm known for today. People still come up to me at cons and go, oh, "You're the Ravenloft guy," and I'm like, "Well, I'm one of the Ravenloft guys." And they're like, "No, you're the guy. You do all the portraits," and I'm like, "Yeah, that's me."
Well, that must feel awesome though, especially with something that was so influential to so many people.
Oh, absolutely. I loved Ravenloft, and I loved being a part of that game, and kind of stand on the shoulders of guys like as Stephen Fabian and. Some really pretty famous classic TSR artists worked on that game, and I get to be counted among them by fans, and that just freaks me out even to this day. People will go, oh man, you're my favorite Ravenloft artist. I'm like, surely not.
So funny. And you also worked with Arcanist on Ancestry and Culture, did you not? So you also had a bit of that was
yes I did.
Award winning, I should say.
Yes, yeah, that's exciting. That was one of the most popular projects I ever ended up being. Of course, we had no idea it was going to be big at the time. We were just doing this little
that's
indie
kind of
book.
the magic of some of the stuff, though, right? You worked on it. Obviously, Gwen and Amy, and there was a great idea there where there was something that was missing from these books. And we spoke to Gwen when they came on the show as well, too, about needing sort of something at that point. It was almost obvious. And then creating it. And now it's taken off into so many people's, home games, which I think is fantastic. I think. Yeah,
they really they really got the timing right on that one, I think. Kind of hit the zeitgeist on that one.
Denizens of Darkness, I think, was
that's the other one. That's the one I was referring to. Yeah. That is one of the projects I think I am the most proud in my career. I think the art on that one just took off. It was really, really cool. I've been getting a lot of advice from art directors over the years, telling me that I need to work a little more realistically, which is real popular in the game right now, gaming industry. Everybody wants photorealistic stuff, and I kind of skirt that edge between kind of comic book and realistic. But everybody keeps going, you got to push the realism. So for that project, I did. I started working from references. I was, all those characters I did for that project are kind of an amalgamation of different references. I find a head here, an arm here, and it really worked. And then I did the layout and kind of helped put it all together. Wrote one of the characters. Love that book. It came out so good. I'm really hoping we can do some sequels.
Yeah, personally though, because you mentioned it and you sort of brushed by it, but I am curious. Do you prefer working more in like a comic sense rather than a realistic?
I do actually. I'm actually not a huge fan of the way RPG art has gone in the last few years with the attention to photorealism. It gets to the point like there's a great example. There's a picture in the 5th Ed player's handbook for D&D, and I don't want to knock the picture. It's actually a really, really beautiful illustration. It's really, really good, but it's like a woman with her hands kind of together like that. There's like flames coming out of her fingers, and I can tell it was done from a model. I don't see the drawing when I see it. Now maybe that's just because I'm an artist, but I see a model in a studio doing this.
Yeah.
and that it draws me right out. So to me, there's there's a fine line that you need to walk when you're an illustrator between a realism and cartoon, unless you're doing like a comic book game like Mutants and Masterminds. I've done a lot of stuff for Mutants and Masterminds, and that you pull out the inks, you make it a comimic book. But
it's interesting though that you mentioned this, because it's something that admittedly has never really thought about it. I haven't really spent any time thinking about, because like my brain says, oh, photorealism makes more sense because it's meant to be realistic. But if I was to, especially now after thinking about it for a moment, if I was to actually put pen to paper in terms of what I would prefer in a role-playing game, I think I probably would be more on, because on your side of thinking, because when I look at, especially when you look at like the old D&D manuals, like AD&D, or like Tomb of Horrors, or like the elves and all that kind of stuff, it's very clearly like its own style versus And I remember at one point years ago, a friend who was an artist who sort of had these more abstract visuals, and me kind of being like, oh, why don't you just make it look like this, and then being like, well, cat attack.
Say hello to Kaiju. Kaiju, you're on.
Kaiju. Oh, that's a cool name.
That's a great name for a cat.
He's a half Maine Coon, so he's
a
big old fluffy. Yeah, he's a big. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, cats can always interrupt you. No, but it's interesting because my friend sort of said, well, if you wanted it close to life, just take a picture, because that's what you can do. Like computers can take images and sort of run them through a filter and sort of change that. But like if you're looking for more on the artist side, then don't you want the artist's influence?
Right. Yeah. He's not going to leave me alone here. Come on, buddy. Yeah. It's and when I was going through art school in the 90s, we were taught not to rely too heavily on photo reference, because for one thing, you're using somebody else's work, and it may be kind of filtered through your brain, but it's still not 100% yours. And plus, it's we were told it was sort of like cheating, because you're already taking something that's three-dimensional and has already been translated into two dimensions. Now, is that true? They were trying to teach us to think and work on our own. So that opinion clearly had an agenda behind it. So I'm not going to sit here and go, no, using reference is cheating. That's
no, but it is a good point. Like it is something to at least consider, especially when it comes to like putting effort and money behind something. A lot of people are like, oh no, I want it to look as true to life. And they might be unhappy with something that's more from an original sketch, just from your mind. It's like, well, I used a reference on this one versus this I literally just came up with because I thought it looked really cool. No, I'm learning to use reference more. As I said earlier, art directors that keep kind of pushing me in that direction, and I show my work to Paizo, and they're like, well, this is cool and all. You have a good sense of characterization and stuff, but it's not realistic enough. That's not what we're looking for. So so I am learning to use reference, but again, it's a fine line. You can't rely too heavily on it. The great Boris Vallejo is good as he is, and just a masterful painter. He is, as I once heard it said, a slave to his references. So you'll get, if you look at his sketches, they're very dynamic. You'll get like, there's a lot of emotion behind it. And then when you look at the finished product, it's, they're because it's a model in a studio.
Interesting.
And that's all I see. I mean, I saw somebody once, actually, it was supposed to have like a cape flowing, and they had just pinned the cape to the wall and then painted it pinned to the wall.
Oh man.
Yeah, I mean, it's like you gotta step away from the reference sometimes. You gotta make sure that it works.
I think it's interesting too, as we have artists on. I think this is probably
that's the piece. Yeah. Like I said, it's a beautiful. I mean, the art is just it's fantastic. I love the piece. I don't want to badmouth somebody else's work. No, but I see a model standing and posing for a picture. It just draws me out, and I just wish it had just been step back just a little bit, just enough to give it a little bit of that fakeness, and that I think sells it better.
That's why we love having people on the show as well as artists, because we want to hear those opinions. And
I never thought about the push to realism versus the, okay, we have, I don't know, I want to call it like an animation style, but that's not really right. But like, there's different animated movies where they sit down and it's like, okay, so we're doing it like this, and like there's a particular style, and it's even if they're trying to be like realistic of like, these are humans, we want you to recognize them as humans, this is your neighbor but animated, like there's that idea versus the photorealism, and I hadn't noticed like the shift towards that a little bit more.
And of course then you get guys like Wayne Reynolds, who is sort of the giant of the industry, does the covers for all the Paizo's books and D&D and all that, and he doesn't use photo reference at all. I mean, he's about as far as that as you can get, at least that I can tell by looking at his work. It's there is kind of a balance there. You can still be the number one guy in the industry and not fall to that. But to speak to animation, there's a big I'll call it a push, a trend in animation to use motion capture. And I've almost never seen it used super well in animation, because to me it always comes off as being a little too realistic. I'm old school Disney, I like the motion, and not that they didn't use motion capture back in the day, where they would film some kid climbing on stuff, and then it's Mowgli or whoever, but still they were doing a lot more just kind of made up hand animation, and then you get something like Arcane, which was, I have to admit, the best animated series I have ever seen.
Arcane was good.
Oh my God, this is good. Now the seventh person who's been like, yo, you gotta check out Arcane.
Oh my God, it's nuts. It's so good.
Intense. I would not say Arcane is bingeable, because like you need the time. It is not. You watch an episode and it's like, I need to process.
Yeah, you gotta digest it. Yeah,
I gotta watch it.
It was almost
the only thing that turns me off about them, and this sounds real, I don't know, whatever of me, but I League of Legends, to me,
I don't like League.
To me.
I don't like League. I don't know anything about it. My partner plays it not League. He actually plays like their other games like casually.
Dota or something?
Not Dota. They have like a card game and stuff like that, and team fight tactics. He plays those. He used to play more League,
but it's nothing to do with League of Legends, I'm assuming.
It uses the same characters, but it's like different.
It's not like a top down.
I don't play video games at all. I have heard of League of Legends. I have no idea what even platform it's on. So that's
I'm a bit of like a contrarian. I see League of Legends and I'm like, no, thank you. Like,
it's.
But I've also heard so many good things that I literally Aaron just messaged me and said it's fantastic.
Even if you don't know anything about League lore.
That would be me. Yeah.
Yeah. I was asking questions about it, but you didn't need it.
I didn't even realize the characters were from the game.
That's the
I
thing,
had no idea.
Some of the most fleshed out characters in Arcane are not actually game characters. Was one of the things that I was.
Yeah. I wonder if it was one of those things where they tacked it on to get more people to watch it, and it did the inverse for me, because to me I was like, if this was just called Arcane, I'd watch it. League of Legends made me go, pass.
I don't think so, because they've had very, very successful music that has been League of Legends produced.
Yeah.
And stuff like that. They've always done the multi-platform thing, and then they're like,
so little about League of Legends.
But to my point, the entire thing is motion captured.
Yeah.
So it's basically filmed the whole thing in live action and then animated over it. But they did it so well that you can't.
There's some characters that I struggle to say that it was it must some of the characters, the way they move, it's they struggle to see that being a straight motion capture. It's they took it and then they stretched it.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's really good though.
They did something to it to make it work. But my second favorite animated series of all time would be Avatar: The Last Airbender, and you could tell the scenes that were motion captured versus the scenes that were not. It's whenever they started doing martial arts, obviously that was motion captured, and when they're just walking around, it was not. And that was a real obvious thing. And art is kind of the same way to me. I can usually tell when somebody's relied too heavily on a reference. That was my point.
M. Night Shyamalan did a great job with that.
We will built up.
Shyamalan's The Last Airbender, right?
Right? Yeah. No,
Nearly the last one.
I'm guilty of actually liking that movie when I first saw it. I gave it a decent review. I thought it was pretty good. I can't watch it now. I mean, I'm not allowed. Everybody says it's terrible.
I know as much about Avatar in the meme sense. I know that
great
it's fantastic, and I know that the movie is terrible. That's like my cursory.
Yeah. No, the show is great.
Got a blue like downvote on its head. That's kind
okay. I never thought of it that way, but no, it's that's a great series too. I loved Avatar, and I like Korra pretty good too. So yeah,
I've heard that's also really good.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, but when you come to animation, there's people have been talking for the past feels like months now about Cowboy Bebop, because they did that, they did that, and then canceled it like two weeks later or something.
Which is a shame. I'm enjoying the show. I still haven't finished it, but
and Into the Spider-Verse. I don't know if you saw the trailer.
But I haven't seen the trailer for the second one. I kind of decided I want to avoid it, but I love the movie so much. It was so unique.
That was
so good.
That was fascinating to watch the first time. It was kind of like somebody took like the Who Framed Roger Rabbit idea.
Yeah,
and actually did it with modern technology, and so it was like newly fantastic.
I mean, the Into the Spider-Verse to me is the perfect movie because it's a movie that my 4-year-old can watch and enjoy, and then I get to watch and enjoy. And that sweet spot, for movies, not many movies hit that because most of the time they're either too stupid and kiddie or they're too violent or whatever, right?
Right.
That's like the perfect level because it's got like a little bit of darkness in it, but almost any kid can watch that versus but I also get enjoyment out of it.
Well, I'm weird. I'm a big fan of 3D, and I have a home theater and with a 3D projector, so I bought it in 3D, and if you can see it in 3D, it's a whole new level on that one.
That'd be cool.
Yeah, that's a great movie to watch in 3D.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting too. 3D sort of has that it kind of was really big, and it still exists now. But, you don't market it as much anymore.
No, and it's harder and harder to find 3D Blu-rays. I have to import them from Europe.
Interesting.
Yeah,
just wait till Avatar 2 comes out, and then you'll be right back into it. You'll be at the leading edge of it because you're like, nah, I never give up on it. I'm right here.
Yeah.
Because that was the last one I remember being like.
The only one I remember was one of the Alice in Wonderlands with.
Oh yeah.
I remember the ending credits. It didn't work for me anywhere except for the
Johnny
ending
Depp
credits.
That one. Yeah, that one's awful. I remember being
I like that one.
Terrible.
Nowadays, I'm like, this is definitely a bad movie, but it is still one of those movies that I would go pull up if I was just sick and sitting on the couch. If this is vaguely surreal, this is kind of working.
Oh yeah. Actually, I'm confusing it. I'm confusing it for Willy Wonka. I hated. Willy Wonka.
That one.
That one was just.
Yeah. I forgot.
No, but he was great as the Mad Hatter. I thought.
Yes.
Lena Bonham Carter is the Queen of Hearts.
Can you blame me? I'm mixing up
Johnny Depp.
Johnny Depp with Johnny Depp.
But that was the only one that I remember the 3D actually working for me.
Huh? Some people it just doesn't register.
It doesn't. It doesn't quite work for me, and sometimes it almost works, and then I just feel sick.
That's too bad. Yeah, that sucks.
I can do virtual reality for half an hour at a time.
That's interesting.
That's cool. Because I guess it's closer. Well, no, I guess it's the same, right? You're not.
I think.
Well, I don't know. Because do you wear glasses normally?
I do not. No. But the VR, because it is an entirely 3D space, I think everything in your vision is in fact the 3D. Versus when you're sitting in a theater watching something where it's I know this is 2D. You cannot change the fact that the screen is 2D. And so then them trying to make it look 3D, it's I think my brain just can't compute.
It just refuses. Nope.
No, that is 2D.
This is not a thing. No,
this isn't going to work for me.
Yeah.
Cool. So obviously you have the art side of it and all that and stuff, but you also have fantastic gallery. And
oh wow, yes.
Yeah. No,
I do have fantastic gallery. Yeah, that's awesome. It's my own little publishing arm. About 2008, I got into self-publishing through DriveThruRPG, and I have some people I work with every now and then, and who give me some stuff, and I'll do my little editing job on it and put it up. And then I've written my own.
Is there something through Fantastic Gallery that you're particularly, exceedingly proud of, that you're always hoping more people play? Oftentimes we have people on here, artists,
Interestingly,
writers.
yeah. Well, interestingly, the thing I'm the most proud of is something we haven't put out yet.
So what should we be looking for?
It's been in the works for a while, and it's sort of a long story. Another company, a small press guys called oh God, what were they called? Something door back game room creations. That's what it was. It took me a minute. Game room creations put out a D20 modern translation, or a Pathfinder translation of D20 modern, and called it the Modern Path. And they contacted me one day and said, we want to convert one of your books into that. And I said, sure, whatever. And then I started working with these guys, and I really liked what they were doing. But I had some ideas as to how the system could be improved. And then they said, well, we're not going to produce this anymore. We're just going to get rid of it. And I said, well, sell it to me. I like the system. I have some ideas. Sell it to me. So they said, well, we'll just give it to you. We'll just sign over the. So I wrote up a little contract, and so they transferred the rights. And I started working on a third edition version. So a third edition, because they had put out two other editions. So basically, it was a third edition of that game. It was based on Pathfinder 1. And I really liked it. I worked with a friend of mine. It's going to be a big release, and we were just finishing up the manuscript, getting it ready for editing, when Paizo announced Pathfinder 2.
Oh no!
And I realized that I was now working on what was very possibly a dead system. So I ended up shelving the whole thing, waiting to see how the industry kind of reacted, how the fans reacted, because last time there was a major edition change like that, there was some reaction, little bit of reaction on the internet, little bit. So I said, okay, I'm going to wait and see if there's a whole new edition wars coming up. And it's been a little weird for me. It's been sitting on the shelf for like 5 years now or something like that.
Wow.
And it's because with second edition, second edition is it's been embraced, but it didn't really just shoot, like for the Moon, people just didn't love it and didn't hate it. It's just kind of there.
Yeah.
And first edition Pathfinder is still being supported by the fan industry. So I kind of didn't know what to do.
Yeah,
I
think
so
it's going to be one of those things with 3.5 and 5e are still both beloved systems, and there are still people playing and developing actively for both.
But I get what Talon's saying, because I feel like second edition Pathfinder is it's sort of lukewarm, whereas even 5th to 3.5 was more polarizing.
Yeah, that's true.
There was there's more role playing in this. Oh, but I prefer the combat of this. Whereas I do feel like, at least again on the outside, because I don't play Pathfinder, I've heard of people doing that.
Well, I mean, and I hear good things about fourth ed. Part of the problem is I've yet to play it, because we're still my group is still working through a lot of the old adventure paths, because we love Pathfinder. We're a big Pathfinder group, and so we're working still through some of the older adventure paths, and haven't really, we're not done with Pathfinder 1 yet.
Yeah.
So I haven't really learned how to play second. I got all the books, but I haven't learned how to play it yet. So it's kind of hard to develop for a game that you haven't, really you don't know how to play. So that project has still been sitting there. But we did a playtest campaign that took place in the 70s, and that was a lot of fun. We did 70s magical action. I set it in New York in the 70s, so real sort of cesspool of history there, and it was a lot of fun, and I'm really proud of that game. I think it's going to be really, really great if I can ever get it finished and produced and put out there. So
stay tuned.
One of these days. And of course, since then I've started other projects, and I've got 3 or 4. I usually have 3 or 4 different projects in the work, all of which take forever because it's just me.
Well, you can't sit down and finish it in a night. It's the nature of it.
Oh my God!
And bashing ideas. And
my God!
Even though they'd like to pretend, no one writes in a bubble. Everyone needs.
There's it's producing a book is so much work. The writing, the development, the play testing, and then I of course have to, on top of that, I have to do art duty. or art director duty. Is sometimes I hire out because I don't want to illustrate an entire book myself sometimes.
A lot of work.
Yeah, it's a lot of work, and I work slow, so.
No, you work methodically, and do you not use more traditional methods too? Like, how do you actually create? Are you?
Oh no, I'm 100% traditional artist. Well, 99% traditional artist.
Yeah, like you use physical medium. Right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. My media of choice is Copic marker and color pencil.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, not a lot of people working in Copics. I just I went to a Copic marker demonstration by Adam Hughes at one of my local comic stores, and was really impressed with what he was doing with the markers, and decided to buy my own set and just fell in love with them. So yeah, I basically will lay out the whole thing in marker, and then we'll come in with color pencil and do like fine detailing. And most people can't tell what medium I've used. People think it's digital, but most people in my industry are working digitally, and I'm just a little older. I'm pushing 50. When I was going through art school in the 90s, digital art was brand new. We had like 4 computers in the entire building. I mean, you had to sign up to go work on the computers. That was a big deal. Photoshop was like Photoshop 4 or something. I mean, it was a baby industry. So I just never learned. And all the people now who I'm kind of working with are in their 20s or 30s. That's all they do is digital art. They've never touched a paintbrush. And I'm old school. I paint and I draw. So
fantastic.
Hey,
and I think it's arguable because I don't want to discount people who use different mediums, but
no, absolutely.
Personally speaking, I always prefer because I feel like you're taking generally more time with it, and there's just something tactile and sort of neat about sitting back and being like, oh, this is something that I've created. I can lean back and look at this rather than lean forward at the screen.
Yeah. There's you get an original work of art. Which is a nice thing. A nice little side is I can sell this piece for I might get a few hundred to draw it, and then I can sell it again for another few hundred and
double down.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
So when you sell it, basically they people who are publishing the books or whatever, they want it in digital copy. So how do you, because I know, like, how do you get it from a physical page that you've drawn it on into a like high resolution file? Do you have like a special scanner or a special software?
I do. I have it's actually sitting right here next to me. Cat's on top of it. It's an Epson. It's an older model now. But it's a high resolution, fairly large flatbed scanner, which was a really good investment for me to do that, because that's when I finish the work. I haven't finished the work because then I have to scan it, run it into Photoshop, do color correction. Sometimes I'll add like digital effects, like some of the pieces for Torg I did for the Cyber Papacy book required like neon effects and glowing circuitry and things like that. And the easiest way to do that in physical media without using an airbrush, which is something I'm not really proficient in, is to just run it into Photoshop and add digital elements to it.
That makes sense.
Yeah, so that's kind of the third step. The first step would be sketching it out. The second step would be doing the colors. The third step is scanning it, running it through Photoshop, and adding all the little details. But yeah, I have to scan it at a high resolution and turn it in at a high resolution.
Which makes absolute sense.
Yeah. The only issue becomes when I work large, because the scanner is, it's big, but it's not.
It's only so big, yeah.
Right. So I have to scan it in pieces, and then painstakingly put it back together in Photoshop like a puzzle.
Oh man.
Yeah, that can be kind of a pain in the butt. And it's one of the reasons why I don't do any, a lot of large paintings. Not only does it take forever, but it's hard to scan.
Time consuming in the back end as well.
Yeah.
So
exactly.
you mentioned, Ellen.
Go ahead.
Competition. Who gets to ask the first question?
I think mine's simple.
Okay, go.
So what size do you usually prefer to work with then? Do you usually just do like 8.5 by 11 or?
I like to work a little bit larger. I generally work on 11 by 14
Okay.
marker paper. Is kind of my standard size. Usually, the art is going to be a little smaller because it has constraints. It has to fit on the page, and every art or every publishing studio gives me a different size to work on, a different publishing size. I've actually had to create little templates and label them so I know which company
how
I'm.
much you have,
Yeah. When Green Ronin throws me something, I got to pull up my Green Ronin template and then size it up to the correct proportions. But yeah, 11 by 14. Occasionally, I'll go larger and do 14 by 17, but that's bigger than my scanner, so then I run into scanning issues. But yeah, I like the markers don't give you a lot of detail. That's their only downside.
You have to go big.
Yeah, so I have to work. If I'm dealing with a face or something, I need something a little larger so I can get in there and get the detail in the eyes and stuff.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
So you've mentioned Torg being your favorite.
Absolutely, 100%, hands down, my favorite RPG.
Exclusive Torg, or what else do you play?
Oh God, no. I've played just about everything, and I'm in a fairly large local gaming group, and we game a lot. We have COVID notwithstanding, we have 3 weekly games, I think, and then I'm in 3 monthly games, and since going online, I'm in several. Of course, they're all online games, but that's gotten me into even more because I can join games with friends I knew in college and haven't been able to play with in a long time. So the whole online gaming thing has really taken off, and that's been a lot of fun for me. But yeah, I play Pathfinder, D&D, of course Torg, I mentioned. Let's see. I used to play a lot of World of Darkness, not so much in recent years. We've kind of gotten away from that. I miss it though. It's such a different experience than any other role-playing game.
Yeah.
I'm in a 13th Age game right now.
Yeah. Okay. 13th Age is my game of choice, so I'm always excited.
Awesome!
He immediately perks up.
Awesome, yeah. I had never played it, and that's one of my monthly games. And a friend said, "I'm going to start a 13th Age game," and I'm like, "Okay, I'll buy the book. I'm game." It's an interesting system. I like it. It's I like the way the book was written too. It's real, just sort of casual. like you're chatting with friends.
I think it's one of my favorites for just reading that I've read too. Even if you decide you don't want to play it, it's a very readable, engaging rule book.
Yeah, it is. It's very unique. It's a unique game. I've also been a big Star Wars fan. I have just about every Star Wars role-playing game book dating back to the first edition of D6 in every edition. And I'm currently running. It's on hiatus, but I'm currently running the Fantasy Flight system, Genesis. I think is the technical name of that system.
Oh,
which is
the technical name?
Yeah, they came out with a generic version of this
type.
Yeah, it's Edge of the Empire. It's 3 or 4 different games.
Yeah, we've had a few people that I think have worked on it came on the show, but also some people who had played it.
Yeah,
I have mixed feelings on it. I will say
it's different.
I really, first off, because you're an artist, I will say that the art for the books is phenomenal.
Oh, absolutely.
Gorgeous.
It's top shelf.
Yeah. And I love the design of the books. I love the design of the character sheets. I love a lot of the choices they've made. I would say the biggest issue to me is the dice. I hate the dice.
Well, that's one of those games where you either love it or hate it. I think it's kind of fun. It's because it's so unique. There's a bit of a learning curve on it.
Well, to me, what I like is the feeling of rolling a die, and I'm going to get ranty for a second here.
Sure.
Because I also despise, and this goes for any Christmas gifts you go to get me in the future, Ellen. And for anybody watching, in fact, I despise dice that have symbols instead of their 20 or 1. I hate playing with them. I should
random farm animal dice. Got it.
Weather dice with little clouds.
There we go.
No. Actually, it's funny because I have some of those. I have tone dice, but you know what I mean. What's that really fancy woodworking RPG? Wormwood? No. Wormwood. There's a really high end. They make tables and they make
Oh,
dice
yeah.
trays.
That might be Wormwood.
Wormwood or something like that. Either way, they have gorgeous dice, and I always kind of wanted to buy one, but they have instead of the 20, they have a symbol or they have some sort of thing, and I hate that because A, I don't need to be advertised to while I'm playing a game, and B, I want that immediate reaction when I get a 20 of like, yes. And half the time I roll it, I'm like, is that a 1 or a 2? What is that?
Yeah, you got to turn it over and look. Yeah,
for real. You're like, ah.
Well, this is my favorite D6 that I bought. That's the one.
Oh, that's good though.
I like it.
Yeah.
See, I like it when it's an actual design. If it's a logo, then I'm like, okay, is this?
I should clarify. You're right, because I have seen that that have like "fuck yeah" as like their natural 20.
Yeah.
I'm okay with. What I'm saying is, because to me, it's like primarily like advertising. Like I'm like,
that sucks. Yeah.
Like there are some dice that I have that were advertising dice. That's
it's got
okay.
A moon in the 20. Well, this I get frustrated on. It's a gorgeous die, but I'm like, I just want to know what is that like. And the problem is, there's no absolute. Like you can pick up a die, and the 20 will be the image, or the 1 will be the image. There's no universal system for which is the image, so you never know until you like check, which is so aggravating.
Well, check this one out. I played a necromancer in a 5e game, and I wanted a D20 with a skull for the 20, and I couldn't find one. So I bought a blank die and a Dremel and made my own.
Oh, cool!
Oh, that looks so good.
That looks great.
Thank you. And there's the one.
Oh, that's good. You know me too.
Yeah.
See, I guess for me, I don't really mind, like, because I have dice that are like they were souvenir dice, and so I don't mind that they have the logo on because then it's I met this guy. I remember meeting him. Like,
yes. Souvenir die. Okay, you're fair. Because I have some at Queen City Conquest as well. That I agree. You're right. But to me, those are more like display die. They're not like die.
But like my regular playing set. That's I don't really know what we're playing, but I know I'm going to play something where I need a dice set. Yeah, that one's just numbers.
I want my number.
Well, the Star Wars RPG is, it's all symbols.
Well, this is the extended version of that because I remember the first like 10 rolls I'm like rolling, and at that point I'm just like, what the fuck did I get? Like,
you have to memorize what symbol cancels what and what. Yeah, there's an app it's a little expensive, but it does actually make it a lot easier. You just hit a button and it'll just give you the results across the top. This many successes, this many failures, and
that's my second frustration with that, because I'm not a big fan of systems
you want
that
dice.
Make a proprietary die that you need to purchase to play their game.
Because
that also sort of that tips me from like casual gaming who gets frustrated to like, all right, I don't need to be sold to in every aspect of my life. Like you make your own die, but like you can only play it with this special set of dice. It's like, come on, like
then it better come with the rule book. Yeah.
Well, that's what I mean, right? Like, and when you buy the rule book, no, they don't. You have to buy the die separately.
Yeah.
And I say all of this as somebody who owns this many Edge of the Empire books. Like I have at least 7. I'm looking at them now. There's so many. Yeah, I have 7, including the core rulebook. Like I love the art, and there's so much I love about it. That I have at least 2 or 3 sets of those die, and my partner's played it too. But I have my issues.
Yeah, it plays like a dice game with a role playing aspect. Is really what it kind of feels like to me. It really feels more about the dice. Now I will say that the system is incredibly dynamic and friendly to game masters, because you can like your players, they don't just succeed, they succeed at different levels or fail at different levels. You can fail but still get advantages. So and then it's up to you as the game master to describe how they fail, or even the players. I let my players do it. I was like, okay, you fail but you got an advantage, how you want to spend those advantages, and the dice drive the narrative. That is so unique. I've never seen a game that gave narrative power to the players, and I really enjoy that as a game master. It's a lot of fun. I don't just sit back and let them tell the story for once,
Yeah. Well, then you're playing Powered by the Apocalypse, and that is a whole different ball game. Don't get me ranting about that, because that's but anyway, that's a fantastic system as well. So obviously Torg is up there, that's up there.
Yeah.
He's put on hiatus. Is that just because timing?
Yeah. Well, I've had some unfortunate family tragedy the last
Oh.
few weeks. My father got sick and passed just before Thanksgiving.
Oh no.
Very sorry for
So
your loss.
oh,
So
thank you,
sorry to hear
thank
that.
you. But and he had Alzheimer's, and I had to move in
Oh.
with him, so I had to put all of my games on hold. Like it was just,
Oh
Gotcha.
wow.
and it was sort of a sudden thing. He kind of fell down the stairs, and I don't want to get that's
Yeah.
No, of
that's
course
sad and
not.
personal. But it was a whole thing, and I kind of just had to tell my friends, all games are off, everything is on
Yeah.
pause. I got to go move to Marietta, and so
Yeah.
we haven't. We're still dealing with his estate and everything. So I haven't quite gotten. And I said after the new year, I'll be in a position where I can kind of reboot my games.
Oh, of
No,
course.
that
And I mean, I
that
can
makes
imagine,
complete
And
know.
everybody's
sense.
been real accommodating. Yeah.
Oh, of course. I think that's one of the nice things about having games in this COVID times where people are used to playing online and things like that. And
Yeah.
equally, it's one of the nice things about role playing. I find, especially, it does offer an escape at times. There's one things that you
Absolutely.
can step away and be like, okay, I
Yeah.
can't think about what's going on right now. I'm just going to sort of melt off into the world. And to me, that's not just role playing, but that's creating art, that's writing, that's
hmm
the beauty of artistic endeavors in general. And I think we're just so much more used to it because I think in this field we're surrounded by creative types. Very
Yeah.
few people get into role-playing games without a sense of creative drive,
Well,
whether it's artistic or
yeah, that's what I like about the hobby. It's like I love movies, I love television. I'm a huge consumer of mass media. As I mentioned, I set up a home theater. I have a TiVo and I watch probably over 100 shows. I absolutely love to be entertained, but there's something special about role playing that will always draw me to that hobby as opposed to just consuming media is because you're a part of it, and
Yeah.
there is inherent creativity to all aspects of it, not just to the DM. When you're a player and you're playing that character, you have to get in a mindset. You have to say, how would this character think? How would
Absolutely.
this character react? And that's a very creative process, and that gives everybody, maybe people who aren't necessarily have a lot of creativity in their lives. Maybe if you're in a job that doesn't require a lot of creative thinking, then you can go home and put on that creativity hat
Yeah.
and roll some dice, and suddenly you're problem solving or acting out some scene or deciding what you're going to say to this dragon to keep him from eating you.
Yeah.
Your
Always
real world skills that you
Real world skills,
You're
yeah.
asking for a raise. Yeah.
Well, yeah, and you could take that to your job or
Oh
whatever.
yeah,
It's
absolutely.
yeah. So
I can defeat
it's
a dragon. I can ask my boss for a raise. No,
I
it is
didn't spend
interesting.
all those years playing D&D to not learn something about courage.
Yeah.
For real, though. And it's funny too because I think that works on so many different ways too. I mean, the amount
Yeah.
of times, and any GM has been here where you prep for a session and you may be only halfway through or whatever the case.
Oh god,
The
yeah.
way the game goes is so different than the way you planned it, and that's
Yeah.
because you are encouraging these creative minds
Mm-hmm.
to tell a story with you. And
Yeah.
I think we've all had an experience where a game went so much better than you had planned because of that instinct. You know what I mean? Where you're like, I just thought you guys were going to arrive in the airship at the next site. I didn't think we were going to do a whole celebration of Kelmvor on the way with, candles and fruits, and like that whole scene was that. And that to me is when you have an artistic field like RPGs, which is that brings that creative people that want to act, people that want to tell stories, people that want to paint and draw the characters at the table, people that want to make little audioscapes. It is a great funnel for the creative mind. And I think
Absolutely.
people are at that table doing it. You come up with great stories or work through problems or give yourself courage.
Oh yeah. One of my favorite gaming stories that happened to me is I was running a vampire game, and it took place kind of out in the Old West, and I had this one player, and I had the story, and I was all, okay, you're gonna do here and gonna go there and do this sort of thing, and halfway through the session, one of the vampire characters said, yeah, I'm gonna walk out into the desert and meet the sun, and I was like, wait, what? You're gonna do what now? You know, so I just had to take my little script and go, all right,
Yeah.
let's do this. Let's see what happens when you walk out into the desert. It was a really interesting sort of moment for me. As I was not expecting that, and had to
absolutely. And I think what's great about this too, besides this stuff that we're talking about, which is all true, but it's also like, you know, whoever that player was obviously had a reason for doing that. Now, sometimes, admittedly, it's because they want to mess up.
Yeah, the mage talked him into it.
Yeah, but you know what? And talking about escapism and talking about, you know, maybe trying to get away from this COVID world and some real life stressors, sometimes you have motivations from players that, you know, might not have a logical reason in game, but might have a logical reason in real life. And I've often played with people, you know, whether it be using safety tools appropriately or things like that, which are sort of the more common conceptions of stuff like this, or just making player choices where they're doing it because of a real world reason that has been affecting this, and they want to experience that feeling. You know, I've had tons of players, you know, young and old, play different sexes, different genders, different motivations. Partially because they're excited, partially sometimes because they're curious. And there's something wonderful about having that, you know, just that big open blanket of creativity, and then having a GM that encourages or allows for them to practice and play out those fantasies, regardless of what they are, because you are now welcomed in a space. And we mentioned this last week or 2 weeks ago, Ellen and I, where we're talking about no one who sits down at an RPG table is not a little bit of a nerd, you know, like no one sits down, you know.
Yeah, bankers don't get into this hobby.
But if they do, they're nerds.
Right, exactly.
Exactly. Like, I know that if I ever met Vin Diesel, no matter how tough this guy might look, I know he still plays as a dragonborn blank. You know what I mean? Like, there's a disarming nature to that no matter how he tries to hide it, I know that this guy still likes to pretend he's someone else at times. And that is like a commonality.
I think everyone does that to some extent. Just some of us are more honest about it, and some of us have decided that we're going to pretend to be, you know, Stinky the Kobold, you know, for a few hours every week, and some of us pretend that we're some sort of action hero, and like.
And there's a wonderful feeling too when you meet somebody in real life, air quotes, and they're like, oh yeah, I role play, you know. And I think we've all experienced this too, where there's almost like a disarming. You're kind of like, you know, you see this person, you might have preconceived notion about them, and then you're like, oh yeah, what do you do? And they're like, oh, you know, I play D&D, and you're like, oh.
Yeah, just drop. You're just like, my people.
You're kind of like, well, but you're also like, oh, I never would have either. Like, I never would have thought you, or oh, that's so crazy. Who do you play? Or like the amount of times I do bar trivia every once in a while, and it's at a nerd themed bar. So every once in a while, a D&D question will come up, and even the people who seem the most like they wouldn't, which obviously just speaks to my own issues. You know, I'm judging people, which I shouldn't be, but the people that I'm still like, oh, I'm so surprised, and obviously I'm like, that's fantastic. Like I what do you play? And then immediately there's this like connection where you have this comfort with people, because you all know that you put on wizard hats if you could, you know.
Yeah. Well, you know, the hobby has become a lot more mainstream. You know, when I was a kid, it was a very nerdy thing. You hit it. I actually went to Catholic high school, and you know, that was in the middle of Satanic Panic. So it was, you know, we had teachers literally going, you know, D&D is satanic, and you'll go to hell if you play it. And so we had this little secret group that we would hide in the library and roll our dice. That's awesome. And you know, and hope nobody saw us. But it's become so much more accepted now that, you know, even muggles will play it, you know.
Yeah, exactly.
So I love that, and it's a little bit hard to accept that, you know. It's hard to remember that you know, I don't have to be embarrassed about playing D&D.
Yeah, well, that's the thing too, and it's starting to cross over that to the point of pride, which is so exciting, you know.
Yeah, it is.
Being proud of this kind of hobby and getting to share it with new people.
And
go
ahead.
Sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna say to the point of playing things that are not you, you know, like 90% probably of my characters are female, and that was something I sort of landed on back in college as a way to step out of my own skin. You know what I mean? You know,
absolutely.
a lot of the characters I play who are male just kind of end up being me, but you know, but if I'm playing a woman, it's a different mindset. It's
Absolutely,
just
yeah.
different enough that I go, okay, I can now pretend to be someone else. I can pretend to be.
Yeah, same. And it's
yeah,
such a
and
I
fun
do.
and refreshing way, to sit down and feel like you're separating yourself and leaving a bit of yourself at the door, which is always kind of a nice way to feel when you're role playing.
I'm like 50-50 whether I play female or male characters. Like there's some characters where it's just like, nope, they need to be female.
Yeah.
But I always try and play a different like stereotype, I guess. Like if you like look at a person and you're like, okay, they are this stereotype. Like I try and pick somebody that like if you had that 30-second conversation, you would say that they're a different stereotype than you would say if you met me. You know?
Torg is all about the stereotypes, so
Yeah.
you should play Torg.
I'm a hobbit that likes eating food.
Yeah.
Speaking of, have you guys seen that Colbert Trilly rap video that he did for the Lord of the Rings trilogy?
Oh, I saw somebody posted it on Facebook today, but I haven't watched it.
So good. It's so good. As a fan of Lord of the Rings trilogy.
So with your encyclopedic knowledge of games and coming into the holiday season, what's your pick for a game to play with the relatives who don't necessarily play a bunch of like tabletop games or even board games or whatever?
Oh wow! So if I were to sit down with my relatives and teach them how to role play, is that what you're saying?
Not necessarily. Like maybe there's a board game or something, but like what game would you go grab to sit down and do a family game night?
Wow, my family are so not gamer, so not gamers at all. Oh, I honestly do not have an answer for that.
They're not even going to break out the Uno deck, huh?
Yeah, no. They're very, very straight-laced conservative type people. At least on my mother's side. There are some that I would definitely play Cards Against Humanity with, but very quietly. I can't think of one off the top of my head, to be honest. I would have to dig through my board game collection. I'm not a huge board gamer.
Yeah.
I have a few choice games. It's been a long time since I actually sat down and tried anything.
That's fair.
So I am uniquely qualified to answer this because my in-laws are here right now.
So what did you pull?
So they like we tried last time they were here. We tried playing Betrayal at House on the Hill because it's very simple. Didn't go.
Nope.
Didn't work out well. But they brought a game which I'm happy to recommend because it's pretty fun and straightforward. And I don't know why, but I think it appealed to a lot of people. It's called Poetry for Neanderthals. And I don't know if you've heard of this.
I think I've heard of that game. It's ringing a bell.
So it is a very interesting game. Basically, the concept is you have these cards.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
And it's similar. Basically, the card might say meat on it. So you and your partner, you need to get them to say the word meat, the typical style of games. However, you can only use one syllable words. So you have to be like hot, I eat this, it cook on fire. And you can only use one syllable words. And if you use more than one syllable, they get to hit you with this stick. So last night we're playing it and we're like, I eat. It's better than, and better immediately comes and my partner just boom, hits me with the thing and I'm like, oh, and then you lose a point or whatever. So I highly recommend it for people.
Those line of games are so fun.
That sounds great.
It's very easy and it's inflatable. Obviously, you don't have to play.
Yeah.
Like we do. It's very easy, very simple. It's like a 15-minute play time or whatever.
Yeah, I really liked Bears versus Babies from them.
Yes,
that's a fun game. Yeah,
Exploding Kittens is also
Exploding Kittens was also fun. Yeah,
we have one of those.
Throw burrito. I haven't played that one, but
no, I haven't played that one either. This one is good.
That one you get to throw a burrito at people.
Yes,
it comes with like a little plushy burrito.
But to me, the funniest was just getting to hear people try to communicate. Like you're on the road, and it's like I drive on, turn car on, drive. Not street, but it's pretty funny. So
that is cool. That is cool.
And then also, actually, I have a little escape room board game So that my father-in-law and I did that, and he did good. I think we're gonna do an escape room tomorrow to keep him. So we'll see what happens. That's Harlan, what do you suggest for the holidays?
So my family actually does, like my side of it actually does play some games. So they always Dominion is the big one that they reach for.
Whoa.
Yeah.
That's a legit game.
Yep. My brother does a whole bunch of RPGs, but and he used to GM for me all the time when we were growing up. And at this point, we have very different styles about what we look for out of games, so we don't tend to play together anymore.
What does he look for?
He's just like it's hard to say because if I say the words, then it's like, well, you guys should be fine together. But every time we play together, it just dissolves into like, okay, we're both angry. Like,
oh no.
So it's like, this isn't fun. These are supposed to be fun. Let's just go play with our regular groups and tell each other about it. Yeah, it's just different approaches to, I guess, story versus mechanics and what makes a good mechanic and like approaches to how we want to come at puzzles and things like that, or alignment or world like the mythology of the world and stuff. We just kind of end up butting heads. We have different ideas about it, which is fine. We just don't play together. We talk about our games with each other instead of playing them.
That's a bummer.
I mean, it is what it is. I have
if my brother liked to play RPGs, I would be so excited to be like, oh, let's play together.
We used to play all the time. We played a ton of Pathfinder First Edition together growing up, and then when he went off to college, well, actually, when both of us went off.
Hold on, I have music for your story. Continue.
Okay. We just sort of like ended up with like different things that we were drawing on. He got very much into writing his own systems and mechanics, and like really mechanics heavy. And I've always been like, no, story. And not only that, like RPGs are about collaborative storytelling. So I don't know. It's just different.
So please join me in inviting our next guest to the stream, Ellen's brother. We're
going to do some live gaming. See, watch the sparks.
Yeah. Just watch the siblings snipe at each
other. I'll run a game for both of you and your brother, and then we'll see, how it goes. That's awesome. I mean, that's a pretty like, game. It's a I don't think my family would handle that.
I'm a big fan of the Firefly role-playing game.
Okay, we just played that for the first time. Actually, my partner and I
love it. I lose it every time I play. I've literally never won it, but it is so much fun. It captures the feel of the show so well. I mean, it's like every time I play it, I feel like I'm watching the show. It is so good.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah,
I've heard good things.
Oh my God, play it! It is fantastic.
I played Battlestar, which is very much like the show as well.
That's an intense game. I played that once, and we destroyed humanity, and not a single one of us was a Cylon. It was
oh no,
nice,
good times. Yeah. And I also like Outer Rim from the
Outer Rim's good. I really Mansions of Madness and Gloomhaven.
I haven't played Gloomhaven. Mansions of Madness is interesting.
When you play Gloomhaven, Gloomhaven's like one of those games. It sticks with you. You're like, oh shit.
Nice.
Anyway, Talon, if there was a game that that Fantastic Gallery has published or something that you'd like to push people towards, what would it be? Is there anything that we should sort of tell people to check you out, or just your website, or what's sort of the best way to?
Well, you can find Fantastic Gallery on DriveThruRPG. We have a few things, like the Sisters of Rapture, the adult Pathfinder and D&D 5 game. That was written by a guy called TCAT, and we're working on a 5th edition version of that, which is just waiting on the cover. I think is the last thing we have to do for that.
Cool.
But everything else is sort of really in the works at the moment. I'm working on a Torg game. A supplement for Isle. I'm doing a Races of Isle book, which is going to be a pretty serious book. I think it's going to have a lot going on, a lot of art in it. If I can find someone to illustrate it besides me. Otherwise, it might be a couple of years before we get to it.
Awesome.
But yeah, you can find them on DriveThru, or you can find my work at talonart.com.
Perfect. Yeah. Is that the easiest way socially to follow you? Talonart.com or
Facebook?
Very much, or Facebook.
Facebook.com/talonart.
Perfect.
Yeah, and
check out our guest for today. You can follow all of his updates, Talent Art, on Facebook, and check him out. Check him out. That is it from us. We hope you have a wonderful holiday as well as you, Talon. And
Thank you. You too.
Back in 2 weeks on New Year's Eve around this time, and I think we're going to be doing something special. So if you have the time, make sure you stop by and say hi. That is it from us. Have a wonderful weekend, and we'll see you soon. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.